Hello, everyone. Once again, this is Greg West coming from the Black Community Blackboard page here on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, and you can also find us at Black Community Blackboard at gmail.com. What we do on this channel is we try to bring out the most positive people in our community, organizations, and everything so that we can set our own narrative about what's happening in the Black community and the people who are really involved. We no longer have time to allow the major media and everything like that set the narrative, because as we know, when we allow them to set the narrative about our community, it's never really painted in a positive light. So like if you know anybody who you think that might need to be highlighted on our channel, as far as like an organization, run somebody who runs a positive Black organization, somebody who's been in the community grinding for years. I'm talking about shopkeepers, people like that who've had that store or that Black business in our community for years, an educator, anybody who has a positive story that you think that we need to get their narrative out there, please have them reach us at Black Community Blackboard at gmail.com. If you would like to support this channel, we ask that you really, the most support we need is that you go ahead and like, subscribe, and share with your friends. But if you would like to make a donation so we can keep going on, we will put that in the chat. But our main thing is to get the content out there. This is not really out here trying to raise a lot of money, and all proceeds that we do raise over and pay for our, this platform goes toward the nonprofit Felons with a Future. So it's twofold right there. If you make a donation, you're helping a worthy cause in our community, and you're keeping this channel on. But like I said, if you don't have nothing to give, or you do have something to give and choose not to, best way we ask for support is to like our channel, like our interviews, subscribe to the channel, and share with other content with other people. Okay, today we have on our platform Jared Garrett. He's running for my man is running for city commission, and Jared is, young Black man right here from the city of Dayton. He's a Meadowdale graduate, went to UC, and also got his law degree at Northern Kentucky Law. He has strong ties in our community. So that's one thing that we need to look at when we're considering candidates. Do they really have strong ties to our community? And when I say our community, I mean our Black community. Yes, we need somebody who really, just doesn't look like us, but talks like us and thinks like us and understands us. So I'm glad to have him on our channel tonight. And well, no more from me. Jerry, go ahead and do a little introduction to the crowd out there. Let them know who you are and why you get into this race.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate that introduction. I appreciate you having me. Again, my name is Jared Grandy. I'm a lifelong Daytonian, born and raised here. Went to Fairview Middle School, Meadowdale High School, graduated, went to Sinclair Community College for a while, went to University of Cincinnati where I majored in criminal justice, then went to Northern Kentucky School of Law. When I came back to the city, I worked for the Urban League, the Miami Valley Urban League. I worked with young people, in particular, young people who had touches with the juvenile justice system. After working with the Urban League, I got a job with the City of Dayton Human Relations Council. It's the only agency in the city that enforces our civil rights ordinances. I worked there as the community police relations coordinator. I resigned in the midst of the George Floyd protest. There was a lot of stuff going on in our country. To be honest, it's been things that's been going on in our own city, in our own community. I've been trying to get law enforcement to reimagine itself and change for years. It became clear that, all my advocacy would make a difference. Not only my advocacy, but the advocacy of the community in these meetings wasn't making a difference. So when we came to a crossroads in our country, I had to let it be known what side I'm on. I'm on the side of justice. I wanted people to know that when it's all said and done, I'm gonna stand up for justice and not worry about simply getting a paycheck. So now I'm running so that we can reimagine our public safety, so we can prove to Ohio, to America, to the country that we can create safe communities without the over-policing of Black and brown bodies. And that's what we've been seeing across the nation And it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to see what we saw in Minnesota a few days ago. We don't have to continue to watch, officers like Derek Chauvin get a kneel on a man's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. We got body cameras now, but all it's allowing us to do is witness the brutality.
Right.
Black people have always known about the brutality.
Right.
We didn't need body cameras, to watch it. I appreciate this platform. And I got a lot of policy. I got a large platform. I got a lot of policy issues that I talk about, and I encourage you all to visit the website www.jaredfordayton.com/plans to read the platform. But yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation with you, bro.
Okay, I appreciate it. Now, Jared, so some of these policies that you're looking, that you would like to see happen when, I'm not going to say if, when you're elected as city commission. Let's talk about a couple of them. What are your top three policies that you would like to see implemented or changed within the city of Dayton? Yeah,
man. When I say reimagine public safety, I'm really talking about underlying addressing the underlying issues. So I do have stuff I want to change within the police department. We still have no-knock warrants. We still do pretextual stops, meaning that people get pulled over mostly because their tent is too dark, or they're looking for any reason to pull somebody over. The Supreme Court said that's okay, but I don't think that's okay in our police department. I think we should change that. I want to seriously reform our police to the point that we reimagine what public safety looks like. But I also talk a lot about environmental justice. And Black people, we don't talk about environmental platforms a lot because we got so much going on that we don't even get to it. But it's a huge issue, right? We have to protect our earth. We have to protect Mother Earth, because if we don't, she won't take care of us.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think Dayton needs to do its part to protect the climate, but also we have to address the environmental injustice. And what do I mean by that? Black people, communities of color, and poor communities tend to live by waste treatment plants. We tend to live by smokestacks. We tend to have worse air quality. Dayton, Ohio is the worst place for a person with asthma in the whole country. So we definitely need to address those kind of things. And the other thing, which is I'm really big about, is we have a lot of vacant fields that turn into unofficial dump sites, especially here on the west side. We have to hold those property owners accountable. We have to hold the people who do that dumping accountable. And when I say dumping, I'm not talking about litter. I'm not talking about like a Rowley's bag thrown out the window. I'm talking about whole demolished houses, people who flip and rehab houses, dump all of the trash in these dumping sites. So little kids are riding their bikes past dumping sites right in the middle of a residential neighborhood, especially here on the west side, but also on the inner east side. So where poor people live and where community of colors are, they're doing this. So I definitely want to address that. That's a part of my environmental justice program. And the last thing I'll mention is community engagement. I'm running to put the power back where it belongs, and that's with the people. Right now, we have centralized power. Since 2014, we've been dismantling every community power center we have. We dismantled priority boards, and now we're to a point where we have one liaison in the city of Dayton that's responsible for connecting with all 65 neighborhoods. That's not going to cut it. We need fully funded staff priority boards. We need community centers where people have a voice. Priority boards were the heart and soul of the city, and we got rid of it, and now we have people in high places with no accountability, and we need to change that. Right, and I agree with you a lot about keeping people accountable, because that's one of the things that
I believe I reached out to you and invited you to April 28th when we're having our forum. As far as like, we started this back in January, and we do it every quarter, not just for people who are running for office and everything, but after the election, we really started a post-election to keep. We're doing our part to keep. Even if you're elected, we're going to call. No, not if. When you are elected, we're going to do our part to keep you accountable. That's what we believe. We believe
absolutely,
and I believe that anybody who's running and wins, and it's public part of the public, service structure, should want to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
And that's absolutely that's what one thing that we believe in doing. So now let me ask you, with your experience when you were at the HRC and this controversy, ain't no controversy. We know what's going on with them talking about defunding that stuff, and like how they tried to cut the budget and everything. What was your thought process when you seen this going on, man?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. The HRC, the Dayton Human Relations Council, was founded by our ancestors who were had their boots on the ground, who were organized, who came to the city and said, we need an agency that represents us. We need an agency that hear our grievances and who are going to hold the city accountable to addressing those grievances, right? And the HRC has been there since 1962. And like I said, since 2014, this is a new Greg. Since 2014, they've been trying to take power away from the community. The HRC is an organization that gave power to the people, right? It allowed people to come to me with police complaints, even though I couldn't really do anything about them. I was just an advocate for them. I was a liaison, and I helped them through the process. But they, at least they had somebody in government. We had immigrant support program there, and justice is not. And super important is they have a program called Business and Technical Assistance.
Right.
It's all about getting minority businesses up and running and getting contracts with the city. They use the excuse of what happened to our brother Roshan as an excuse not to fully fund that program. That program still isn't fully funded. The HRC, generally speaking, isn't fully funded. So a lot of the times, I said this in an endorsement meeting with the Democratic Party. I didn't get the endorsement, but I said this to the party. I said, people criticize the party as being performative, meaning that we give lip service to these issues, but we don't necessarily do anything or support these issues. And defunding the HRC is the perfect example of that. You say you want to support immigrant communities. You say you want to support Black communities. You say you want to see Black businesses grow. You say you really want to work on the issue of community police relations. Yet the agency that does all of those things, you take the money away. So your support for these issues is performative. It's all lip service. We're tired of lip service. We want somebody who's going to actually do things. We want somebody who's going to support the initiatives that protect the people.
So that's that's a good point, because I often laugh and find it funny that you guys say now that systemic racism is a public health problem.
Yeah.
But anything that's supposed to be a public health problem, you're supposed to go ahead and start attacking it. Like when they said that the opioid problem was, a public health problem. We see how fast they went out and, started finding funding to go ahead and open up new programs and new things to help combat that. But with this new public health problem, they're taking money away from the one agency that was the voice for it. And that's contradictory to me and counterproductive. So let me ask you this. Going forward, when you get in office, how will you work? Because one thing that when I was running my platform and when I was running for county commission, I believe that if I was elected, that I was going to have monthly meetings with the community, not them just come to the commission meetings and that's the only way. But I wanted to get into the community, into the neighborhoods, and different places,
Mhm.
Is that something that you're looking to do, or how do you plan on
Yeah,
interacting with the community once you're in office?
absolutely, absolutely. For one, like you opened up with, I'm from here, I'm of the community. You know what I mean? Like you gonna catch me at Kroger. You are live in Northern Hills. You gonna catch me out here. I'm here. Like you gonna catch me at church. I'm in this community, so I'm always gonna be accountable. And truth be told, that can't be said for all of our local leaders. You know what I mean? Um, so that's for one, but for two, so CJ McClin, he had these things called Sundays. He sat on his porch or he opened up his house to any constituents that had a complaint. They could come to him weekly. And so I plan to do something similar. I plan to make myself available at least once a week to the people to talk about whatever issue that you want to talk about. And let's be real, Greg, it's the 21st century. We can hop on live, we can hop on Zoom.
Right.
We can leverage this technology to be in constant communication with people. But oftentimes leaders are scared to be in constant communication with their people because they don't want to be held accountable to their people. And part of the problem is that's why on this campaign, I'm very careful not to write a check my ass can't cash, right? I'm
Right.
very careful not to tell y'all that I'm going to do something that I can't, right? I'm telling you the issues that I'm going to fight adamantly for, and I'm gonna keep the promise to fight for those issues. I'm not saying when I get in there, the police department is going to look different overnight. What I'm saying is I'm gonna get in there and I'm from day one going to be breaking down the budget, looking at how we can reallocate some of these funds, and create policy that's going to benefit people.
And that's a good point right there. Talking about that, because I was going to segue into one of the things that I wanted to talk about, defunding the police. When everybody hears the word defunding, they talk about getting rid of it, and that's not what defunding the police means. We need to get the information out there, let them know, like you said, reallocating. Because
Right.
what does the city of Dayton's police department really need with military tactical?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's public record for me.
Yeah.
Every raid that I was involved in when I was out in the streets, they were
Uh-huh.
using military grade weaponry and materials when they were coming to get,
Yeah.
coming to serve a
Yeah.
warrant for us,
Yeah.
selling drugs and stuff or whatever else it might
Yeah.
be. And
Yeah.
so people need to know that we're not talking about getting rid of the police. What would your in your vision, some of the things that I miss as a kid is watching what the police department was. Police really had true interaction with the community that they serve. We had
Mm-hmm.
police that walked beats. We had people, police that would, really come into the neighborhood and they knew the people in the community. What would your vision be of what our police department should look like?
Yeah, man, a few things. You touched on a few things. If I may, I'm gonna give a quick history lesson. In 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson, before he got out there, signed this thing called the Ombudsman Crime and Control Act. It was a direct response to the uprising that happened as a result of Dr. King's assassination. So what that did was allow within that act was this law or this policy that allowed the federal government to sell military equipment to local law enforcement institutions. And so at that time it was for riot control, right? But right after that, you had President Nixon, who was the first person to talk about this war on drugs, right? So literally, we use the word war on drugs, right? So, Nixon had his term, and then we eventually get to Reagan, who ramps up this war on drugs. And what happened was police departments literally they took that rhetoric dead seriously. They had an excuse. So we had this law that allows local law enforcement to purchase or receive for free military equipment. Now we have an excuse to use all of this military equipment, which is this war on drugs. So as a result, a lot of our police departments are heavily militarized, and you know, you talk about you know, the police department when you were a kid. That's because that it was still some remnants of a police department that wasn't at war with its citizens. The war on drug era brought in a era in which local law enforcement institutions literally started to declare war on their citizens. So as you spoke to, you know, in your past, what you saw was them using military equipment to quote unquote fight this war. But this war, like a lot of things in America, disproportionately, like unreasonably disproportionately affected Black and brown communities across this country. So we still have a lot of that military tactical equipment, and we use a lot of money to keep and maintain and continue to purchase that kind of equipment. So I'm gonna answer your question first, and then I'm gonna make another comment. So what my vision is one, let's get rid of most of this military equipment. Let's sell it. Let's get some money for it, or to get rid of it. Do something, scrap it for all I care. Get rid of it. Get and use those resources to reallocate to benefit the community. So our police department continues to be one of the most well-funded departments in the entire city. If you compare that with our youth and rec services, that their budget is abysmal. It's a fraction of what the police gets. So what that tells us is that this administration values the over policing with military equipment, but doesn't value young people and them having something to do. So I'm for reallocating funds where it makes sense, and giving money to programs and agencies and departments that are more beneficial to our people. And another thing to help with this, like this community policing, that, like you said, like that beat cop. One, we need police officers who can relate to the people. I'm gonna say something that might seem a little bit controversial. I don't give a damn if we have more Black police officers if they're not of the people. If they're
Right.
not, if they can't relate to the people, because
to me, that's not controversial. That's real.
Yeah. I mean, because oftentimes we will get a Black police officer, but they don't know how to be in community with the communities that they serve. So I want people, Black, white, or other, who can be in community with the people that they serve, right? So we have to do a better job of recruiting. We have to do a better job of weeding people out that don't belong in our communities. And we have to do a better job of making that job seem attractive to young people who grow up in our communities, right? Nobody wants to grow up to be a police officer if they know the job entails them being not good people and not people of the community, right? So we need to change the culture of law enforcement, period. So that now we can attract people who we want to be officers. And like very practically, this last point I'm gonna make, very practically, we have these things called operation districts. So you have the West Patrol Operation District, you got the East Patrol Operation District, you got the Central Patrol Operation District. These operation districts are huge. Like the West Side is huge, the East Side is huge, right? Downtown is a bit smaller, but what you're saying, you got to set up so that officers would have to drive maybe all the way from, let's say, North Main to Germantown. Like that's a lot of patrol space that officers respond for. Dr. David Fox is a good friend and mentor of mine, and he was a police chief, and he always says, like, when they had precincts, not only did they have precincts, 5 precincts, they had patrol areas within those precincts.
Right.
So every precinct cop knew exactly what was going on in their precinct. I'm not saying that was perfect, but it made more sense than what we have now.
When you know your community, you know better, especially like it's easier for you to maintain, and also, and it also gives the police more of a human feel, because now they're in touch with the citizens, and the citizens view them more of a human than just an object that's here to, police us and keep us in line. And
sure.
the same goes for the police to the citizen. They get to know somebody, and they get to know little Greg is more than just this little bad dude who we think is just a drug dealer, but we know why he might be on there. There's problems in the home where they're not eating it, and that gives you a better, better feel of humanness on both sides. So I agree with that. Because I can look back growing up, and one of the things that you touched on is like how we will fund so much for our police departments, for park and recreations. I watched over my years of being here in Dayton dwindle. I remember growing up, there used to be a park, recreation center, basketball court, something for the community kids to do in almost every neighborhood, where we would walk. I grew up over there off by Westland Park, where we would walk up to College Hill to challenge that neighborhood in basketball games, instead of nowadays, you know what I'm saying, we don't even know the kids from the other areas, so now they're our enemies. We did that way, and I watched how the defunding went over these generations, where basketball courts were taken out, community centers were closed, but we can still find money, to have military grade equipment in our
Right. And speaking of military grade, like I do have to mention this program called Shot Spotter. So we were just talking about how if you have something more like a beat cop, you know what's going on in your community. Because we don't know what's going on in our community, we try to get more military equipment to spy on people, so we can have technology to figure out what's going on in our community. Shot Spotter is dangerous. It just recently, just a day, within like last couple hours, video was released of this young a Latino kid being shot by police because they showed up on a scene on high alert because the Shot Spotter sent them there. We spent $600,000 in that equipment, $595 to be exact, $595,000 on this surveillance equipment. Instead of hiring more officers, or instead of hiring community advocates to be in the streets, we spent money on this technology that hasn't proven to reduce gun violence, for one, and then contributes to the over-policing of Black and brown bodies in a way that could be detrimental to us and in our lives, literally.
Right. And that's a good point, because like one thing I also understand from my history, my experience, a lot of things that we would deem as, we try to legislate and also try to criminalize everything instead of trying to find out the human element of what's really going on.
Yes, sir.
Like one of the things that we deal with the nonprofit that I started, Felons with a Future, is that we deal with the trauma. Because like what most people don't realize, especially in our community, we grow up and we become accustomed of dealing with PTSD. You know what I'm saying? And that's normal for us. And a lot of the people who commit crimes in our community didn't wake up one day and just say, I'm going to become a criminal. It came out of the type of trauma that is already built into our homes and into our communities that we never really get to address. So one of the things that I believe, and I would like to see, hopefully, when you get in office and everything, if we're going to really deem systemic racism as a public health, issue, let's start getting the help for the people who've been traumatized the most by this, opening up, fund it, you don't even have to fund the organizations, but getting the information out there that these organizations exist.
Yes, sir.
A positive light out there. I appreciate what some of you guys do, but then I don't appreciate the way that the city would say this is already not just the city, but just our government in particular. Say, these are the issues but we're not going to address these issues. We're just going to talk about it. So,
yeah. Nah, that's real, man. And we need to be listening to folks like yourself who have some experience, some expertise in these areas. So when I was with the city, we had this community initiative to reduce gun violence. Now that wasn't a perfect program; it was too law enforcement heavy for my taste. But I ran the community relations, community engagement portion of that program. And part of that is we work closely with Montgomery County Office of Reentry. And so the deal we made with the county was we hired a caseworker to help work with these returning citizens. But again, that's one caseworker for how many returning citizens, right? Like that's
we got over 13. We got. I don't want to misquote it. I don't have my statistics in me.
Right.
Yeah. We got. I want to say close to 5,000. I believe it is just in Montgomery County a year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Nah. So when so like if we're going again, if we're going to express support, then we need to bring people to the table like yourself to ask how can we better support these services, these programs, these people who are re-entering into our community, right? Like you have your nonprofit. How can we support your nonprofit, even if it's not financially? Why wouldn't we use our platforms and shout you out every chance we get? You know what I mean? Shout out to Greg West. Who's working with returning citizens, and he's working with young people to help provide a better future for them. What local leaders do you see using their platform to uplift people like yourself? And even if I don't give you a pile of money, you always gonna have that voice and that advocacy in that office. And also, again, let's share the wealth. The police department is funded. We spend a lot of money to get people locked up. How come we don't spend as much money to keep people out? How come we don't spend money to reduce recidivism? Not only reduce recidivism, but keep young people from going down that path. We need to support that effort.
Right, and that's one of the projects, because like what people don't realize, because I don't get out here and I don't believe in being one of those community leaders that's telling you everything that's going on. I'd rather show you my work and find out. But one of the things that we're working on, me and a couple other people, we're starting a social enterprise where we're going to start working on trying to do our part of reducing the preschool to prison pipeline.
Yes,
and
sir.
Like what you said is like catching them on, if we can catch them on the front end, we won't need me on the tail end as much.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And one of the things is like better community involvement from our political leaders. Like we said, don't need to financially support us, but just give us the support of letting people know that these services exist. Like I know there's a lot of. That's why I dedicated this channel to this. There's a lot of good organizations that are in the west side of Dayton that are helping people that a lot of people don't know about.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, a lot of them. And and if we had the community support, I mean the political support, as far as like letting people know that these services exist, it would also reduce the money that we have to spend as taxpayers for social services.
Correct.
Right.
That's real talk. And like there's no substitute for like brothers like yourself being in community with these young people, right? Like, we could try to create these fancy programs, and we should. Don't get me wrong, right? Like we should have the Montgomery County a Department of Reentry. We should have the HRC, but there's no substitute for, especially as a Black man, being there for each other. And taking up the mantle and pouring into these young people, so they don't go down that path. Like you said, the county spends, I don't have numbers in front of me, but the county, the jail, is a large part of the county's budget, right?
Right.
We would save money if we wasn't filling up the jails. You know what I mean? We would save money on police departments, policing if we was supporting brothers like yourself who were pouring into the young people. So we just, generally speaking, we need to be more creative about how we address these issues and quit throwing money at arresting people, because we're never going to arrest our way out of this problem. As you know this, we're never going to arrest our way into a safer community.
Right. You cannot legislate away some things, some real social, even though they try to legislate away social ills.
Right.
And like one of the bills that, I want to talk a little bit more with our state representative, Willis, about. There's a thing that's coming up where they want to start arresting if you're caught selling drugs within so many feet of a treatment center, you'll get a harsher crime like how they did in schools. And we know where most of those treatment centers are. And the way the bill is worded is basically anything recovery, oriented. So that could be a halfway house. That could be all of that stuff. And we put those things that are in our community. So those are things that we have to, one thing, I hear everybody talk about, registering people to vote, but I believe we need to educate our voters more than, you can register a million people, but if they don't know what they're voting for, what the bills are for, or even the candidate, you just have,
that's real. That's real. That's real. And I'm not endorsed by the Democratic Party, and the endorsed candidates rely on our ignorance, right? They rely on us, showing up to polls and say, oh, who's the Democrat? You know what I mean?
Right.
And just voting blindly for the Democrat, right? Regardless of how, what that candidate's history is and their history within the Democratic Party, they're just relying on these simple messages. And like you said, if we do more to educate the voter, but not to sound conspiratorial, right? I don't want to get on here and talk about like this abstract they, but people do benefit from people not knowing. There are people who benefit. It's not us. We're not the beneficiaries of it.
Right.
But there are people who benefit from the voter population or the constituency on being ignorant, right? So one, they don't want us registered to vote, right? We see all these bills being passed in Georgia and everywhere else where they're trying to limit and restrict our ability to vote. But two, even if we are registered to vote, like you said, they don't want us educated on the issues. And it's time out for that, man. We got to do our part to make sure that people are educated on the issues. That's why, if you visit my website, my platform is long. I know it's a lot to read it's long compared to the other candidates. but because I want people to know what I stand for, what I'm about. Like, I don't want you to vote for me because my website is pretty. I don't want you to vote for me because my logo is cool. You know what I mean? I don't want you to vote for me simply because I'm Black. I want you to vote for me because I speak to the issues you care about.
Right. And that's one thing that, I'm a firm believer in. We have to, as a community, we have to get away from just voting for a candidate because, he looks like us. Because everybody that looks like us doesn't think like us,
Correct. Correct.
I'm a firm believer in, I'm all for, voter registration. Don't get me wrong. But I'm more for voter education than anything.
Yes, sir.
Are there any issues or topics that you want to talk about before we get out of here?
Yeah, man, I'll just leave you all with this. I like what you said about voter education and voter registration. One, our turnout in primary elections is atrocious. There's no way around it. About 5% of the voting population shows up for primary elections. And then only about 50% of us are registered. So we're looking at about 2.5% of our adult population is showing up to vote in these primary elections. Man, get out and vote. Register to vote. Educate yourself on the candidates. Again, don't vote for me simply because I'm Black. Vote for me because I'm not only Black. I'm of the people. I'm for the people. I'm by the people. I'm not supported by an establishment. This is a grassroots campaign. Therefore, I'm only accountable to you all. And so I just appreciate you for having this platform. More than that, I'm appreciate you for the work that you do. And I appreciate you as a person, returning citizen who hit the ground running, and showing your peers and young people that there's a second chance. You can take advantage of that second chance, and the sky's the limit.
And like I appreciate that. And one thing about it, I don't bite my tongue. I say what I mean, and I don't just say it just because you're on my platform and everything. But the two people that I endorse, and are you and Shanice. You know what I mean? I don't mean no ill will to nobody else, but I believe that you are the most two for our community who really believes and takes time to talk to us. I'm going to ask you before we get out of here. I do need to bring this up. With me being a union leader and everything like that. One of the things that we believe in, because like I was explaining to you prior to our interview, the Dayton Building Trades Association is different than like the UAW and stuff like that. We're more blue. I mean, we're more blue collar than blue collar workers are. We don't have all those. So you can miss not taking away from none of my other union brothers and sisters, but it seems like a lot of their contracts have so many days off that they have. We don't work, we don't eat. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And one of the things that I would like to know, when you're elected, I know that you guys don't have any influence. You don't have any power over private money and everything.
Right.
But if you're elected, would you be willing to talk with us as far as like implementing a project labor agreement with the Dayton Building Trades? Because we've watched a lot of money go around here, and while we're building up downtown and while we're building up other areas in this, and it's all non-union money, which is no problem. I understand that you guys, what I'm saying, but it's not only the problem is not only that it's non-union money, but it's also a lot of out of town, out of state contractors that come in. And we only thing we get out of that is what a little bit of gas money, and maybe if they eat McDonald's on their way up out of here.
Right.
Would you be willing to sit down with the labor unions and talk with us as far as like how can we go about correcting that?
Yeah, man. I mean, mark my words and hold me to this, man. Hold me accountable. You'll see me in these streets. Hold me accountable. Absolutely, yes, man. Like we need people like yourself to come and school us. I'm supporting working families, man. I'm unapologetically about my support for working families. I mean, if you go to my website, jaredfordayton.com/unions, you'll see my plan to support unions and working families. But like you said, it might not go far enough, and if it doesn't, let me know, because now we can talk about this project labor agreement and how that would benefit our people. One of the aspects of my platform is economically empowering our residents, and part of economically empowering our residents is making sure they have good jobs and they can put food on their table. When you're hungry, your political party is food. You know what I mean? Like you said, man, we can't talk about all this political stuff if people are worrying about how they're gonna eat tonight. So I want to make sure, not only I want to make sure that people like yourself are supported and have the benefits of being in a union and have the benefits of that collective bargaining unit, but also how do we figure out how to work together? I won't say any names, but there is a commissioner who claims to help young people get into unions, man. But that's how do we really be about helping young people get into unions? What policies that are really restricting these young people from getting into unions, man? And I'm willing to work with people like yourself to resolve these issues. The one thing I'm telling you now, I'm telling all the constituents, I'm telling everybody who's watching this, is that I don't have all the answers. And I know that, right? But I know there's people in this community like yourself who can school me on some of these particular issues. And if God bless me one trait, it's the ability to listen. And that's what I'm here promising to do. So yes, the short answer is yes. Come to the table with the project labor agreement, and let's work something out.
My man, I appreciate it. And I like to thank you for taking this time. You know, I know running a campaign is, a lot of strenuous time, work. And it seems like you don't really have enough time to do everything that, people are asking you to do. So I thank you for
Yes, sir.
taking time. And again, I want to extend an invitation. I think I sent you the flyer. If not, I will, for April 28th. Where we're having we strategically did that the week before Tuesday of the primary, so that all the candidates and all the elected officials can come out and have their last final say to us as a community, before the primary.
Yeah, man. Well, make sure you send me that flyer. If you haven't, send it again, just so I can make sure that's locked in.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you there, and I thank you again for taking this time. And like I say, man, anything that you need for me to do, if I can get to it, I will help you out with this, because I understand what it's like to run a campaign, and you're basically an outsider, and you know what I'm saying. But the people of the community really believe in you. So, Jared, man, good luck with your campaign. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the 28th, and like I always tell everybody at the end of all of our shows, like I said at the beginning, this channel right here, the Black Community Blackboard channel, is dedicated to the positive things that are going on in our community. So if you have anybody that you like to highlight, please let us know. They could be that educator that made a lot of sense to you, that really, stayed in the trenches. It could be that shop owner that's kept their community, their business in the community for years. It can be, that pastor that's been holding it down. We need to start giving our elders and our people who are doing things that are positive in our community their flowers now, and not wait till after, their demise or pass on, and then talk about how good of a person they were. It's our time to change the narrative in our community, and it starts with one person at a time. Their story needs to be heard. With that, if you have anybody, please contact us at blackcommunityblackboard@gmail.com. You all have a good day, good evening, or good morning, wherever you might be at the world at this time. You have a good day. Peace.